Well, good morning. Senate Agriculture is back in action. About 9:47. We're gonna spend some time talking with some folks, impact of natural gas pipelines on farmers. And we have the Palmers on here, and I'll let you everybody introduce each other. That way I don't butcher anything up. So welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time looking at this issue.
Yeah, we're Nate and Jane Palmer. Um, we're not sure, are we supposed to read our testimony or do you want to
Why?
just ask us?
The floor is yours. Whatever, this is your time. Whatever you best want to do.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're Nate and Jane Palmer. We live in Moncton. In 2013, we were informed our land would be in the path of the Addison Natural Gas Project. We participated in the 248 process and were able to get the route moved within 60 feet of our house and affecting much of the infrastructure on our farm to going around our property. The pipeline is now within 300 feet of our house, but it is not located on our property at all. In the PUC case about whether to permit the pipeline, the Vermont Department of Ag made an agreement with VGS that became part of the permit approval in order to protect farmers and ag land. This agreement was that in all agricultural areas, the pipeline must be at least 4 feet deep. As a result, in both the Velco corridor right-of-way and in all agricultural lands, the pipeline must be 4 feet deep for safety reasons. All of us who lived along the pipeline knew that. In 2016, during construction of the pipeline south of us, we became aware that the pipeline was not buried as deep as was specified in the Certificate of Public Good building plans. We informed the Department of Public Service as well as PHMSA, and subsequently, case number 173550, a safety investigation of the ANGP, was opened by the PUC. It was only after we had brought the shallow depth of cover issue to the attention of the Department of Public Service did VGS report the problem to the PUC. But they never notified any of the landowners on whose land the pipeline was supposed to be buried 4 feet deep, what wasn't. They also didn't notify the town of New Haven or the town's fire department that there was a deviation from the original building plans and the possibility of a safety violation. From the very beginning of this project, we have felt the impact of the construction and operation of this pipeline would not be conducive to our farm or any other agricultural land or farming process. We spoke with farmers and landowners all across the country that had to deal with pipelines and the resulting issues that came with pipelines. This includes soil degradation, lack of compaction, reduced harvest, and temperature-induced ripening differences within a field that has a gas pipeline built through it. We had Dr. Heather Darby, UVM soil agronomist, testify that it could be decades, if ever, for our clay soil to recover from the assault of a pipeline installation. Unfortunately, the PUC would only determine the impact on our farm, not others along the route. When the route was changed off of our farm, the subject of the degradation of ag land was dropped. Fast forward, after the PUC heard the complaints of the safety issues that were uncovered during case number 173550, the PUC found 5 substantial changes to the permitted construction plans that VGS made in violation of the CPG. Yet, at DPS's and VGS's request, the PUC ruled that none of the towns and none of the affected landowners had to be notified and asked what their views were before granting approval to VGS for these changes. We appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court agreed with us and ordered the PUC to start over, this time notifying all the affected towns and landowners. We are now in the middle of this case. During the course of this latest safety investigation, the town of New Haven requested reports from VGS in discovery concerning the depth of cover over the pipeline and agricultural land. In the report supplied by VGS, there are many places in agricultural land where the pipeline is less than the required depth of 4 feet. And even more disturbing, the pipeline is rising. And no one has told any of the farmers that the pipeline is no longer 4 feet deep on land that they are tilling and crossing with their farm equipment. The two depth of cover reports that we read, one from 2020 and the other from 2023, show that in many of the places measured, the pipeline's depth of cover has been reduced by feet in some cases. This issue will cause yet another problem for farmers trying to work their fields. Worst case scenario, the pipeline could be hooked by a subsoiler or deep plow, and then serious consequences will follow. Even if the pipeline doesn't get hit, the farmer will have to work around it and be constantly aware of the hazard. And the farmer was not warned of this fact and was not made aware of it or compensated for the trouble and hazard they accepted onto their land. We were actually told by the then CEO of VGS, when we were not convinced we wanted to host the pipeline, that, quote, after a few years, you will forget the pipeline is even there, unquote. Our response was that this is when the pipeline would become deadly. We are hoping things don't have to get to the point where someone is killed doing field work in Vermont before anything is done about this. When our attorney saw these depth of cover documents and realized this was yet another violation of the CPG, he wrote a letter to VGS's attorney and advised that VGS self-report this problem to the PUC and notify landowners and municipalities of this potential danger. VGS's response was that this depth of cover problem was not identified as one of the 5 substantial changes in case number 173550 that were in violation of the CPG. So he felt it wasn't necessary to notify anyone. We can provide our attorney's letter and VGS's answer to you if you would like to see them. This is coming from a company that claims they are laser focused on safety and transparency. For those of you who are thinking this issue should come under the jurisdiction of the Department of Public Service, please be aware that the DPS has taken VGS's side in almost every aspect of these proceedings and has shown no interest in the public safety at all. It was apparent from the beginning to us that landowners need an advocate in the siting and oversight of utility projects such as this. So what we're hoping is that the Senate Agriculture Committee will ask VGS and DPS to testify to explain why neither VGS nor the DPS has informed the PUC and affected agricultural landowners about this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney Dumont.
Yes.
Who are you representing, sir?
I represent the Palmers
Okay.
and many other folks in the PUC proceeding. And Jane did such a wonderful job. I really don't have much to add. I did file the letter that she mentioned. I submitted that, I think, last night to your clerk, the letter I'd sent to Vermont Gas Systems lawyer. And I also filed their response. So you can see for yourself that they have refused to respond. We said, you're in violation. This is a safety issue. You should at least notify the farmers on whose land this is happening. And their response is, we don't have to. And I wrote back saying, tell us why. What are we missing here? And they said, we're not going to tell you.
So is this in litigation right now?
It is not in litigation because these changes, the loss of depth of cover in agricultural fields, are not part of the 5 substantial changes the commission already found. We're in a case about what to do about the 5 changes the commission already found. This is a new set of violations, and my letter was urging Vermont Gas to self-report to the PUC rather than forcing citizens or towns to have to bring this up in front of the PUC. And that we have not filed with the PUC yet, asking them to open a whole new case on these new violations.
I am very sympathetic for anybody that is advocating for as you are. We're gonna have to give it a little bit of thought about where we're gonna have to seek some counsel, to be honest with you, as far as where our responsibilities are, or that's not even the right word because it does sound unsympathetic to what the Palmers are going through, but we need to educate ourselves about where we can wade into this and where we can't. And if you could give us some time with that, we would appreciate that.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for
Yeah.
giving us an audience. It's really important.
Okay, is
Yeah.
there anything else that you'd want to tell us?
One of the five substantial changes that VGS made to the pipelines construction without permission from the PUC was that they didn't have an engineer of record, a Vermont licensed engineer of record overseeing the project. And we have felt all along that all of these problems that have come up are a result of that. If someone had been responsible and in charge of the entire process, these kinds of things, they could have allowed for the fact that things tend to rise in fields. So these pipelines are moving, and that, nobody ever mentioned that to us when they were trying to come through the middle of our property. So I think it's a bigger problem, but that was that was something that was against the law. I mean, that was in Vermont statute that they have to have a licensed Vermont professional engineer overseeing the project, and they didn't do it. And this is all a result of that, and we're still seeing repercussions from it. But here we are, still fighting this. This is 2026, so it's been 13 years. So.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just out of curiosity, so you said that they didn't have an engineer of record. Is it a possibility that they had an engineer and he just wasn't listed, or that for a fact that they had no engineer whatsoever? Because that seems fantastic, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or there were multiple engineers involved in it.
Yeah. Great question. And the PUC, we had an expert engineer testify. He went through all of their records, and he testified that they did not have a Vermont licensed professional engineer signing on the bottom line as the responsible engineer for the whole project. And the PUC agreed with us. They made that determination, and it was so that's been established. What did happen is they had Massachusetts engineers looking at this part, Massachusetts engineers looking at that part, but nobody was responsible for the project as a whole. And the National Transportation Safety Board found in 2019 that the explosion in the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts of a natural gas pipeline, where luckily only one person died, but millions of people were affected. Only one person died. The NTSB ruled that it happened because they did not have a responsible charge engineer overseeing and responsible for the project as a whole.
And just one last question. Do we know, it was 4 feet that they were supposed to have the pipeline. Did they drill for, and then it rose, or did it not go 4 feet initially altogether?
Different answers for different places.
Okay.
In the swamp in New Haven, they never did it 4 feet to begin with. They did it about 3 feet in 2016, and then when it was measured again in 2019 as part of the investigation that Nate and Jane brought about, it had risen. So in some places it was 2.5 feet. So in the course of about 3 years, it had come up many inches. Now our engineer has submitted testimony saying pipelines rising through soils, it's not a linear process. If it rose a certain number of inches the first 3 years, it doesn't mean it's going to rise at the same rate later. It might rise less quickly. It might not rise at all. It might rise more quickly. So you need to go in there and measure it and see what it is now. And VGS has refused to do that. In the agricultural fields, the answer is different. As far as we know, it was initially 4 feet deep in the agricultural fields, and it has risen to close to the surface since 2016.
I guess lastly, how would you like to stand?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
I missed that
How would you
question.
like this to end?
Oh,
We would like, our engineer has submitted recommendations to the PUC for those 5 changes. For lack of depth of cover in agricultural fields, which is a new problem, What we would like to see at a minimum is VGS notify every farmer, every agricultural landowner, this is going on your land, you need to know. And then work with each landowner on how to address that safely. That seems to us, that's the bottom line.
Thank you,
Nate,
Mr.
does
Chair.
that make sense to you?
Yeah, I'm understanding the original agreement was voluntary, correct?
The original
put it
4-foot
4 feet.
agreement was negotiated by the Vermont Department of Agriculture and Markets
Okay.
with BGS. And that agreement was then made part of the permit, 4 feet on all ag lands. And that was done for safety reasons. And now, so it was by agreement voluntarily with VGS, and then it was made a legal requirement.
So you can't voluntarily undo it at this point.
It's my understanding of the law that because it's in the permit, they have to get permission from the PUC at this point to deviate from that.
But each individual farmer can't all of a sudden say, you know what? I don't want to be part of this anymore. Take your pipeline up and go away.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's too late for that, yes.
Yeah. No, it's an easement for perpetuity. You know, you're stuck with this forever.
Yeah, and they compensated farmers and landowners a certain amount with the understanding and with the implication that they would be able to just forget about it and go on farming above the pipeline, which has not been the case with people we've talked to nearby us. Full Belly Farm when VGS put in the pipeline, they broke the drainage tiles in one of their fields, and they were supposed to fix them. This is before Stephen and Sarah owned the property, but they didn't fix them. So now they have all these ponds just next to the pipeline, and they have no idea how to deal with this. I mean, we've been dealing with the PUC for 13 years, and we're not getting the kind of results we're hoping. But this is the kind of thing that farmers are dealing with. The lack of compaction, so their tractors sink when they're going over the pipeline. So they just stay away from that area. So that's acres of land that people are losing in production.
Where's your coalition of folks that would want to come on here and do this battle with you? I'm surprised there's only 2 of you. 3 of you.
Well, it's been a long,
yeah.
it's been a very long process. It wears down a lot of people.
Yeah.
We're just stubborn, so we stick with it. And somebody's got to be representing the farmers.
We get that.
But,
Do you imagine other farmers are aware of your situation though? I mean, nothing would prevent you from calling the next one down the line and say, hey, did you know this was going on?
I guess that's the next step.
Yeah, and,
We're gonna have to.
And nobody realizes how much it's really moving. We didn't realize how much it was moving until this last document dump that New Haven got. That's where we saw the depth of cover issues. And it's like, wait a minute, this thing is moving all over the place. And it's quite a substantial impact, because if you look at it, the original easement on this thing for this 43 miles covers 390 acres of land between the easement and the temporary work area. That's a lot of land to have impacted. And of course, part of my concern is, their goal has always been to get to Glens Falls to hook to the federal pipeline system. And if you go to Glens Falls, that's another 63 miles. That's another 572 acres of land that's going to be impacted by this. That's a big chunk of it's going to be agriculture. And, things are just going to get worse as we go along. Right now, the pipeline is only running about 250 pounds of pressure, but it's permitted for 1440. And when they hook to the federal pipeline system, that's when they're going to bump the pressure up. And that's when it's really going to stress this little bad boy. And we don't really want to be the weak link here, and having it pop out here. And I don't think anybody else does, but most people, I mean, you got to deal with your farm issues. You got to deal with everything else. How many people have the energy at the end of the day to go, okay, let's go see what we can do with the PUC to deal with this pipeline issue? It's like they got enough going on to deal with farming without having to worry about a pipeline rising up. And it's nothing we should have to worry about. all the problems that we see in this are a direct result of their own actions. It's nothing that any outside force had anything to do with. Even in the debacle in the New Haven swamp, they knew about that months ahead of time. There was talks of alternative ways to either just do the pipeline or place it in a different area. They're the ones that chose, let's just trek right through here. The supervisor of the crew that did the job said, we shouldn't cut an open cut through there. We should drill underneath it. And they made the decision to go ahead and do an open cut. He said we should at least sheet the thing so that it won't collapse. They didn't. All their problems are self-induced. It's not like anything the farmers did to cause this problem or any of the landowners. But we're looking at various drainage issues, like Jane was saying, these people with ponds in their fields. There's also sinkholes that are starting to form in various places. So there's a lot of stuff going on underground that you don't really know how much is happening under there until something big happens. And
So-
that's my concern.
So Nate, we've been talking about this for almost a year now, and the chair and the senators brought up a good point that I hadn't thought of, is that one, yeah, we'll need to seek some legal counsel, but two, even if you just bring us names, let the farmers and have them sign a petition so we can say, hey, we had this many people in it, because just one voice, you've seen, hasn't gotten that far, and it takes many voices to get action. It's happy to get you in here so you can speak about it.
Yeah.
Well, aware of it, but we need, if the Hill Farm comes in and says, we're not worried about it, that takes away from your words. So, but we have the numbers, Linda, put the depth chart.
They're all on here.
Because if you look on them, it's coming up considerably, and that's why when you asked to come on, I said, it is an ag thing at this point, that it could be a concern to us in the committee to hear from. But the more voices, the better, is what I want to.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we're gonna seek some counsel, and we'll have Senator Heffernan reach back out to you. And is there anything else that you want to tell us today?
Yeah, it's hard to.
I think we've covered it.
I think we hit the biggest points of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
There's some serious issues that are ongoing, and they're just not dealing with them. And it's ridiculous to have to wait until after we have a major incident to go, wow, there was something wrong with the pipeline.
And all along, we haven't had anyone on our side except Jim. I mean, we went to the Shumlin told us to call DPS, and DPS said, who told you to call us? We represent the ratepayers. And, so we've never had an advocate as landowners. And the whole problem of the degradation of ag land, which is a problem, just even the digging and displacing the soil and not putting it back in the same order, that's a big issue. And there hasn't been anyone to address that. And I guess that's our biggest, I don't think that's your jurisdiction, but I mean, the DPS is not helping landowners on these utility projects.
Well, we want to thank you for coming in. We've heard.
Thank you.
And as I said, we'll see what we can do on our side by seeking some more information about what we're allowed to do and not. So thank you. You guys have the best rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're
Happy
welcome.
day.
Bye.
And that's what we'll do. I'll check with Anson's group and then seek some counsel as far as with that. My first inclination would be that we're in over our heads, but it is it's affecting farm fields, and we'll just see where it goes.
That was if it does affect farmers, come and say, hey, it is a big concern to us. If we don't get any farmers come and say it's a big concern.
My biggest concern is that right there, that nobody's worried about it other than these folks here, that the pipeline doesn't cross their list. So they are advocates for the community, which is great. They're allowed to be that. So, you know, kudos to them for caring. So other than that, we'll take a break until 10:45, and unless you guys have anything else to chat about.